Hail to the victors! For the first time since 1997, the Michigan Wolverines are on top of the college football world. The Michigan Wolverines are national champions. And they did it. They won it in an absolutely dominant way, defeating the previously undefeated Washington Huskies, one of the best offenses in the entire country, beating them 34-13 in a game that Michigan really controlled from start to finish. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today, ready to break down, to recap the national championship game, the last college football game of the year. Now our eyes turn to 2024. But you take a look at this national championship, guys. This was a game that I think a lot of us expected and hoped would be a close game. And you know, the score makes it look lopsided. This was a one-possession game in the fourth quarter before Michigan ultimately pulled away. But it's one of those games that when you go back and you look and you see 34-13, you realize that score definitely maybe was a little bit worse than the game really was. It was never a game that felt like Michigan was in trouble. I don't know if there was ever a moment in this national championship where I sat down, maybe you sat down and you thought, Michigan is in trouble of losing this game. Right from the start, the Wolverines were dominating. And you go back and look, guys, we talked about 3 ways that Michigan could win this national championship game, 3 ways that Washington could win this national championship game. We did individual videos on both of those. Michigan ended up doing those things that we said they needed to do. Washington did not. For example, we said Michigan needed to dominate the line of scrimmage. That's what they've been doing all year long. Could they do it one more time against the Huskies? Yes, they did. Michigan rushing for 303 yards. 303 rushing yards in the national championship game, averaging 8 yards per carry on the day. Blake Corum was phenomenal. Donovan Edwards was phenomenal. Donovan Edwards, a guy who only had 393 yards on the season, burst onto the scene in the national championship game, scoring 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, both over 40 yards on the day, finished with 104 yards and 2 touchdowns, again, in one singular game, whereas the entire season he only had 393 yards. Unbelievable day for Donovan Edwards. Corum ultimately added 2 touchdowns later on the day and ended up finishing as the leading rusher for the Wolverines in this matchup. But Donovan Edwards really stole the show early and got that scoring going early. Michigan scoring on that opening drive, scoring later in the first quarter to get up 14-3 and be sitting really, really pretty. Michigan dominated that line of scrimmage. They opened the holes. They protected J.J. McCarthy. They outgained Washington 443 yards to 301. Outgained the Huskies by 142 yards on the day. A Washington offense, guys, that was averaging well over 450 yards per game, averaging over 350 through the air as the number 1 ranked passing attack. And that translates to the Michigan defense, right? The Wolverines did what they needed to do up front. They dominated and played their style of ball, and they made sure that Washington couldn't play their style of ball. We said that Michigan, to win this game, needed to pressure Michael Penix. If you go back and look at that Sugar Bowl, Michael Penix had all the time in the world. He wasn't sacked against Texas. He was rarely pressured against Texas, and he has picked apart that Longhorn secondary en route to that victory. Well, in this game, Michael Penix was under duress all day long against that Michigan defensive front that had 6 sacks in their playoff semifinal matchup against Alabama. He was under duress all night long, constantly running for his life, constantly have to throw the ball away. Michigan ended up getting a sack on him. They had 2 interceptions on him, including 1 on the very first play of the second half to take back momentum in a game where it felt like maybe the momentum was shifting in Washington's direction. Again, never in danger of Michigan maybe losing control of the game, but the Huskies strike right before halftime, cut the deficit to 17-10. They get the ball to start the second half, and on the very first play, interception, Michigan gets a field goal, goes back up double digits, goes back up 2 possessions. That was a big, big, big play. And the last thing we said was, Washington, guys, one of the most explosive offenses in the country. Had like 24 scoring drives of 2 minutes or less. They had 5 plays of 29 yards or more in that semifinal matchup against Texas. Michael Penix, to Rome Odunze, to Jalen Polk. Who knew who was going to be? You knew you were going to be in store for big plays when you played Washington. They needed those plays against Michigan if they wanted to win. Michigan needed to limit those plays if they wanted to win. And that's exactly what Michigan did. Washington had 5 plays of 29 yards or more against Texas. They only had 1 play of 29 yards or more against Michigan. A 44-yard pass with 6:04 remaining in the game, down 27-13. Their first big explosive play of the day came with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The longest play prior to that 16 yards. That was it. They did have a 32-yard pass play nullified by a holding call, which would have put Washington at the Michigan 35 down just 7 points. That holding call ended up taking a lot of momentum back in Michigan's direction as well. If Washington converts that and there's no holding call, I wholeheartedly believe the Huskies score and we have a tie game in the fourth quarter. But that holding call sent it back. The Huskies had to punt. Michigan scored, got up 14. The rest was history. So those were some three keys that we talked about. Michigan delivered all of them. They dominated that line of scrimmage. They limited those big plays. They got after Michael Penix, and he was uncomfortable all night long. And we said it, if Penix couldn't stay in the pocket and be comfortable and had that time, if you made him uncomfortable, if you flushed him out of the pocket, he was going to struggle. That's exactly what Michigan did. The Michigan defense, additionally, bent a little bit, but they never broke. If you're a Washington fan, you go back and you look at this game and you say, we had so many missed opportunities. The Huskies had to settle for a field goal at the Michigan 8. They were able to march down the field following Michigan's opening drive touchdown. Looked like they might strike back and make it a 7-7 game, but the defense of Michigan held firm, and the Huskies settled for a field goal to go down 7-3 instead of tying the game at 7. They turned the ball over on down to the Michigan 47 in the second quarter. Early in the second quarter, Kalen DeBoer taking a bit of a gamble. It did not pay off. They threw an interception on the first play of the second half. They were held to a field goal at the Michigan 28-yard line in the third quarter that cut the lead to 20-13 instead of maybe 20-17 had they found the end zone. They had that 32-yard play called back for a holding. They had the interception at the 30-yard line with 4.5 minutes left, down 27-13. A lot of opportunities there for Washington, where if they score 2 touchdowns instead of field goals against Michigan, that's an extra 8 points, so it's 34-21. If maybe they get a touchdown off that 32-yard gain, it's 34-28, and we've got a ball game with under 5 minutes left in the game. So many missed opportunities for the Huskies they were just unable to capitalize off of. That's partly on them, but also a large part due to Michigan's strong defense, the best defense in all the land. That's what they were. They were the best defense in all the land, and they were the best team in all the land on Monday night. This was a national championship, guys, and again, you go back and you look at the score. It was a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. Very well could have been a closer finish than what we had, but when you look at it in the end of the day, Michigan dominated from start to finish. They were never in danger of losing this game once it got going. They played their brand of ball, forced Washington to play their brand of ball. The Huskies were unable to do it, and the Wolverines, our preseason pick to win the national championship. Yes, we did hit on our preseason national championship pick. Absolutely thrilled with that. Were able to get their first national title since 1997. A Michigan team and a Michigan season filled with so much adversity, where Jim Harbaugh was suspended for 6 games total on the year, dealing with all the off-the-field issues, all the rumors, everything circulating around this program. They were able to tune it out. They were to win the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State. They beat Iowa. They beat Alabama in overtime, and they won this national championship to get on top of the college football world for the first time in 26 years. The beauty of this, guys, is this could just be the beginning, or it could just be the end for both of these programs. It's a phenomenal year. Credit to Michigan, credit to Washington for everything that they did this season. Nothing should be taken away from either of them on a tremendous season, giving us a breath of fresh air in a national championship. 2 fresh and new teams. One of these teams ultimately getting to end their long national title drought. For Michigan, we don't know what the future holds. A lot of key players going to be off to the next level. Wolverines might not even have their coach next year. Jim Harbaugh dealing with a lot of speculation that he may jump ship and go to the NFL, having reached his peak in Ann Arbor, finally getting over the hump and winning a national title. For Washington, Kalen DeBoer said it, all those 6-year players, all of them going to depart. This is going to be a team that loses a lot of talent, including their star quarterback in Michael Penix. What will the Huskies look like next year, especially as they transition to the Big Ten, where luckily we will get a rematch of this national championship on October 5th of 2024 when Michigan travels to Seattle to take on the Huskies in a revenge game for Kalen DeBoer and his squad. Both these teams will look drastically different next year, that is for sure, but we expect both to remain contenders, not just in the Big Ten, but on the national stage. Both these teams, again, deserve a lot of credit. Congratulations to both of them, but it is Michigan that finishes the year on top, hoisting that national championship trophy. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert, and thank you so much for a fantastic 2023 college football season. We wrap up with our final game recap of the year, but the content won't stop there. Plenty more coming your way throughout this offseason, so do not miss out on that. Continue to like, comment, subscribe, share the videos, and stay tuned, guys. Become a member of that GE Nation and ride with us until the beginning of that 2024 season. But until then, like we always say, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.